Thank you all for joining us today. I am Melissa Irving. I'm with Peace River Center Victim Services. I am the program manager for the Rate Recovery Program. And today we just want to share a little bit about our program services. I'll just give you an overview of what our Rate Recovery Program is all about. And so if you have any questions, like Jessica said, just chat them in. We do have a question and answer section that you can use. And I do just want to give a disclaimer that if there are any survivors are on the Zoom on this webinar with us, and you would like to chat with us after, please just put your information in the box and we'll give you a call back after the Zoom, okay? All right, thank you. So I just want to first let you guys know that we are, again, Peace River Center. We are the Victim Services Department of Peace River Center. We are serving Polk, Hardy, and Highlands County. So we have 3 offices. The office that is located in Polk County is at 1860 South Crystal Lake Drive. It's right off of Bartow Road, across from the Grove Park Plaza. It's easy to spot. Then we have our Hardy County office, which is located inside of our Peace River Center outpatient office, which is also in a great location to spot. And so then in Highlands County, we have our outreach office, which is located at 1570 Lakeview Drive. That is not so easy to spot, but it is a nice location for our survivors to be able to come and receive that service. So at each of those locations, we provide in-person and virtual services to survivors of sexual violence. So some of the services that are provided with our rate recovery provided from our rate recovery program are crisis counseling. So crisis counseling is available for survivors of sexual violence and their family members or friends. Anyone who has been affected by the survivor of sexual violence is eligible to receive our free and confidential services as well. We have a 24-hour crisis line. That 24-hour crisis line is manned by a live person. You will be able to get in touch with someone or refer someone to that crisis line to put them in touch with someone who has been trained specifically in dealing with the trauma of sexual assault, sexual violence, be it present or past. That 24-hour crisis line is available. We provide support group. Right now, of course, because of the pandemic, our support groups have gone virtual. But when we do have in-person groups, our groups are kind of segregated. So there's a women's group. And then if we needed to open up to male, we would accompany or accommodate a male survivors group. Right now, we know that survivors can be male or female, but we do give more services out to females. We also provide hospital advocacy. So 24 hours a day, the hospital can call our hotline and ask for an advocate to come out and provide crisis intervention to sexual assault survivors there in their emergency room, reporting that they have been sexually assaulted. We respond to all 5 hospitals here in Polk County: Bartow, Lakeland, Winter Haven, Lake Wales, and Davenport. And then out in Hardy County, which is Advent Health Wauchula. And in Highlands County, we respond to Advent Health Sebring, Highlands County, I'm sorry, Advent Health Highlands, Highlands Regional, and Advent Health Lake Placid. So the 3 hospitals out there. And our advocates are on call every other week to be able to provide that intervention to survivors. We provide, as an alternative to going to the ER, we can provide a survivor, if they qualify, forensic exam room here at our office. We are a standalone facility, and we do have a forensic exam room. Our forensic exam room is manned, I would say, by the nurses who are provided to us through the health department, the Florida Department of Health. We have about 4 nurses that are trained as SANE nurses, so sexual assault nurse examiners, specifically to collect that evidence for survivors. And the survivor, if they meet certain criteria, they can come here to our office, okay? Primary prevention and educational groups. And so we go out into the community, educate the community on healthy boundaries, healthy relationships, recognizing sexual violence, just ways to be safe. And so we partner with several community organizations out in the community, and we, just do groups for either their youth or even adults. Another thing that we do is provide medical advocacy. So after that survivor has gone to the emergency room or come to our office and they need additional follow-up and help getting like maybe their prescriptions filled, or they may have experienced a pregnancy or pregnancy because of the sexual assault, or maybe it's just the fact they want to get themselves checked up. They didn't get the forensic exam, they didn't go to the emergency room, but they still want, someone to be by their side where they're going to get checked up, a checkup. We can provide them with that supportive service to go out and be with them while they're doing that medical exam. Also, another thing that we do is provide court advocacy. So a survivor has reported to law enforcement. They are, maybe their case is getting ready to go forward, or they are trying to get an injunction for their protection against the perpetrator. We can go to this courthouse with the survivor, be that support person for them, help them through the whole legal aspect of just let them know what their rights are, how to fill out the paperwork correctly, and just really being just a strong support for the survivor in the next step. And so those are our core services that we provide. You have any questions?
No questions so far, and we've had one more person join us, Melissa.
Awesome, awesome, thank you. So someone is, let me get my slide here. I can't see my slide. Put it back. So someone is raped and they report to you. Someone tells you that they've been sexually assaulted. Now what do you do? So the first thing we don't want you to do is panic. We want you to validate their feelings. We want to make sure that the survivor knows that you believe them if nobody else does. And you want to let them know that it's not their fault. We want you to ask the survivor, do they feel like they need medical attention? It's so important to leave that autonomy in the hands of the survivor when they're letting you know that something has happened to them. Don't ask too many questions. And please do not don't ask victim blaming questions. Like, what were you wearing? Were you drinking? The list can go on. Who were you with? Why did you go with that person? Why didn't you, call someone for help? Do not ask them too many questions, and please don't ask them the victim blaming questions. And don't report the sexual assault to the police without the survivor's permission. Again, we want to leave the autonomy of a survivor or someone telling you that they have been sexually assaulted in their hands. Because once you take that away from them, and they don't have the power over that situation anymore. And we want you to be able to refer them to our rape recovery program for free and confidential support. So thank you for that. So survivors do have rights. Survivors can obtain a forensic exam, whether they report to law enforcement or not. So the survivor shows up to the hospital, and the hospital says, well, you're not reporting, we don't really want to do the forensic exam. The survivor absolutely can have that forensic exam without reporting to law enforcement. The survivor has the right for that forensic exam to be sent out for testing within 30 days if they did report to law enforcement. So if you don't report to law enforcement, you can have the forensic exam. Just do not expect for it to be submitted for testing. If you do report, if a survivor does report to law enforcement, law enforcement has 30 days to get that test to the FDLE for testing. If the survivor, again, is not making a report, the kit will be stored anonymously for a limited amount of time. And so the amount of time usually goes by what police agency responding to the hospital to pick up the kit. So if a survivor does not want to report, an agency has to still come out and pick up the kit. And that agency delegates the time that they will hold the rape kit on their shelf. And the survivor has a right to have an advocate present during the forensic exam. We'll talk a little bit more about the forensic exam, but it's important that the survivor knows that she has the right to have that, she or he has the right to have that forensic exam, whether or not they report or not, because sometimes when they show up to the hospital, it's the hospital's protocol to automatically call law enforcement when somebody is reporting a crime. So if law enforcement shows up in that room and the survivor hasn't made up in her mind that she wants to report or not, she may haphazardly support and then take back and not want to report later. So we want to make sure that they know going forward what their rights are before law enforcement comes into play. So the survivor wants the forensic exam. What next? So here's some advice. We want you to be able to advise the survivor not to shower. If the survivor has showered, then we want you to have them to put their dirty clothes in an evidence bag. So at your house, it may not be an evidence bag. It may not be a brown paper bag. It may just be a plastic bag. But we want to gather as much of the crime scene that we can and get it in a bag so that if the survivor is going to get the forensic exam, they can take it with them to the hospital. Decide whether or not the survivor is going to go to the emergency room or if they're going to come to our forensic exam room. And that is, once you made a decision, of course, there is a conversation that has to be had with the advocates here. So you have to call the crisis hotline, and then we qualify the survivor to be able to come to our forensic exam room. The qualifying elements of a survivor being able to come to our forensic exam room are that the survivor cannot have been drinking and no drugs can be involved in the perpetration of the crime. The survivor cannot be pregnant, complaining of any injuries, and the survivor cannot be bleeding except for the survivor's menses. So if the survivor says my head hurts or my neck hurts, don't even offer the forensic exam room at Peace River's office as an option, because we're going to say you have to go to the hospital. And the reason that is because we are not a medical facility, and so we can't assess those injuries. And so we just want to be able to make sure the survivor gets the best care that they need. And then support the survivor no matter what, regardless if they go to regardless if they go to the ER or if they come to our location, the survivor can call our Peace River Center Crisis Helpline. And the number is here. We'll give the number again at the end of the webinar, but it's 863-413-2707 for additional resources and support.
Melissa, I have a question.
Yes.
I want to ask if the forensics exams are free. If not, how much is it? So maybe forensics exam at ours versus the hospital. I know you get into that soon. And then I don't know that you mentioned the age requirement for having a forensics exam done at PRC.
Absolutely. That is very important. Thank you for reminding me of that, Jessica. You have to be 18 years or older to have a forensic exam at our location. We do not provide that services to anyone under the age of 18. And yes, the forensic exam is free. It's free at our location. It's also free at the hospitals. However, your hospital visit is not free. So them taking your blood pressure, them drawing your blood, them giving you medication, none of that is free. The only piece of that is free is the evidence collection piece. And you'll know when you're in a hospital setting, they'll say, we're ready to collect the evidence. We're ready for the forensic exam piece. And it's a total different piece from everything else that they do. That is free. So, and then additional medication costs. So the hospital, as a part of their protocol, will give out medication to the survivors. You will have to pay for that medication out of your pocket. That's not free. So understanding the forensic exam or the rape kit. And so you hear me use rape kit, forensic exam. They kind of go hand in hand for what they are. The correct term is forensic exam. And it's a head to toe collection of evidence, and it checks for injuries after a sexual crime. So the evidence can be collected up to 5 days, but it's the first 72 hours that are the most critical to getting the best results. So a survivor tells you they were sexually assaulted last night. You want to be giving them advice, checking in with them to see so they can make an informed decision quickly so that they can get the best if they want to report or not. If they just want the forensic exam to have that evidence for a later date when they decide to report, if they decide to report, we want to be trying to get them to do it within the first 72 hours. But the evidence can still be collected within 5 days. The medical professional may collect blood, urine, saliva. They also collect pubic hair combing and nail samples. All of this evidence collection goes in alignment with what you tell the nurse happened to you during the sexual assault. So if the perpetrator sucked on your neck or, just kissed your neck or anything like that, they'll swab your neck with swabs to get DNA from your neck. And so it's a very intense, very intrusive examination. This next piece says that it is the pelvic exam. So if a survivor has never had a pelvic exam before, this can be very traumatizing to a survivor. So we do provide services to survivors ages 12 and up. Our services will respond to the hospital for a survivor age 12 and up. We provide counseling ages 12 and up. The only thing we don't do is the forensic exams here in our office, only 18 and up. And so a 12 and 13 and 15-year-old child who's never been sexually active, getting a pelvic exam to collect evidence is very, very intrusive. And so it basically depends on if the perpetrator penetrated the survivor, and they can have that evidence collected from either their wherever they were penetrated, vaginally or anally. And then all the clothing could and can be collected, even the shoes. And then the medical history piece of that is all of the intrusive questions that they ask a survivor about their sexual history, about what happened during the crime. It is very, very emotionally draining, and it's an embarrassing piece of exam to go through. So when you hear somebody says that people are making up rape stories, nobody wants to go through a forensic exam for a made up story. Jessica, can we get a poll question?
Absolutely. So let's go back and quiz them to see if they were paying attention. We'll ask them about the time frame.
Okay.
So you should see the poll on your screen now. So what is the most critical time frame after a sexual assault occurs for conducting a rape kit or forensics exam? Got one vote in. Go ahead and end it with just the one. All right.
72 hours. Absolutely. That's the most critical time frame. Thank you for that vote. Okay. I'm just having a really hard time seeing my
the screen.
Okay. Oh. Yes.
Sometimes.
So what else should a survivor expect during a hospital visit? A sexual violence advocate present to the survivor while they're at the emergency room during the entire forensic exam. The entire time from the time that we're called out and the hospital gives us a call and we get there, we have 1 hour to respond to a survivor at the hospital. We get there from the time that they're there until the time that they leave. Unless the survivor tells us that they don't want to have anything to do with us, we will be right by their side, just providing them with support, providing them, making sure they know what their rights are, making sure that the survivors know exactly what's happening at each stage of the exam. And also the nurses are very good about communicating that to the survivors as well. The survivor can stop the exam at any time. They do not have to go through, if they don't want to have the pelvic piece, they don't have to have the pelvic piece. If they don't want to give their clothing up, they don't have to give their clothing up. And so this is the forensic exam piece. While it is a crucial piece, it is very important. it is controlled by the survivor, the person who it is actually being performed on. The survivor will be informed at the status of the kit during the processing. So the whole entire time, like I said, what's happening, what's going on, even once law enforcement picks that kit up and they get it to the lab, they're responsible for letting the survivor know that your kit has been sent off for testing. The survivor will and can receive HIV testing and STI testing. HIV medications are offered, and STI antibiotics for STIs are given. Whether a survivor has them or not, they go ahead and just treat as a part of their prophylactic protocol for survivors of sexual violence. And this is for adults and children. Pregnancy tests and Plan B are offered. Every survivor will be offered Plan B if and it can refuse that. Victim assistance completing the victim assistance application. And so the victim assistance application is available to any victim in the state of Florida who is a victim of a crime and they have reported their crime within at least 72 hours. And they have to report to law enforcement in order to be a part of this application process. What the victim assistance program does for survivors of sexual violence is there's a relocation piece that's available for the survivors. They have up to 1 year to be able to apply for that. If the survivor pays for that medication out of pocket, especially the HIV medication, if they pay for that out of their pocket, the victim assistance program can and will reimburse. They also will reimburse days that a survivor misses from work because of sexual violence. So, sorry, for instance, having to go to the emergency room, having to go to the police department, whatever they had to do because of the sexual assault, the Office of Attorney General Victim Assistance Program will reimburse the survivor. If the survivor needs what else? Emergency assistance. So their emergency room bill that they're going to be billed can be reimbursed and paid for by the Office of Attorney General. And so we let every survivor know when we see them in the hospitals, we have them fill out the application. If nothing else, if they don't have insurance, especially if they don't have insurance, so that the hospital bill can be taken care of. And the hospital has to accept the dollar amount that the victim assistance program sends them. The survivor can expect to be at the hospital for at least 3 hours. They can expect that law enforcement is going to come there and interview the survivor in the hospital. The only way that law enforcement doesn't interview the survivor in the hospital is if she or he is not reporting to law enforcement. Most of the time, law enforcement is going to come, and then a detective will come after that to speak to the survivor. So, law enforcement. Let's talk about how to help survivors mitigate the law enforcement piece. So if the survivor is not reporting, they can refuse to speak to law enforcement. I told you earlier that most hospitals' protocol is that if somebody is reporting a crime, that they call law enforcement. Most hospitals already have law enforcement on hand in their emergency rooms anyway. And the survivor, so law enforcement will come in and ask very intrusive questions. They may be, that may be viewed as victim blaming questions. What we tell the survivors is that the law enforcement officers, yes, they're going to ask them very hard and difficult questions. They may be upsetting. You may feel like they're blaming you. But they're just trying to do and get the best information they can to get your crime investigated and the person charged, find a person who did the perpetrating. Usually a detective will arrive to the emergency room and do a tape recorded statement with the survivor. That's if they're reporting. And then if the survivor has any type of evidence on their cell phones, the law enforcement officer can take their phone into evidence. This is really hard, especially for our teenage survivors and some adult survivors as well, because your cell phone is your main source of communication with people. But if there's evidence there, it can be taken for evidence. And then the survivor can review their law enforcement report prior to the final submission. People don't know that, but you absolutely can talk to the officer who wrote the report and ask them, can you see it before it goes to their, for final submission to their supervisors. So do we have any questions?
It doesn't look like it. Would you like to do another poll, Melissa?
Sure.
This question is, what are the most important things you can do to support survivors? And it is a multiple choice answer. Not getting any responses just yet. There we go. All
Right. Awesome. Believe the survivor. Know and share local resources like Peace River Center. Avoid victim blaming questions. Absolutely.
And I know this last one said continue to check on them.
Continue to check on them.
That is actually one of the ways to support them.
Absolutely. You want to make sure that they're okay. You want to check in with them. If you're not asking them too many questions, I just want to let you know I'm here for you. And so, so that they're aware of their support system, the support that they have around them. So thank you guys for sharing and playing. So some medical follow-up resources that are available that we actually give out to survivors at the hospitals and here in our office and over the phone as well. People call in every day looking for resources that they not all the time want to take advantage of our services, but they're looking for other resources. And so the Pregnancy Help Center, it offers free pregnancy testing, HIV, and STD testing. And it's at the Dream Center here in Lakeland. And they're usually open on Mondays from 10 to 3. And so all a person has to do is just call ahead and let them know that service is free. The local health departments offer the same services, except for they're not going to be free. Those services may come in at a sliding scale up to $25. And so if you know a survivor who is in need of that, give them our information. And so we can mitigate if they want to use the health department to try to talk to someone to let them know that they are and have been a victim of a crime. And potentially they can receive the service for free. And then Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood offers a pregnancy testing, STD testing, your HIV testing, and they offer just your GYN checkups. And they're not free either, but they accept insurance, and they also go on the sliding scale. Oftentimes survivors don't want, especially our survivors who are in college and they're in their parents' insurance, they don't want that to go on their insurance bill that they're receiving these services. And so they'll opt for the free service or to pay out of pocket. And so those are just 3 of the resources that we have available here in Polk County.
Melissa, I know last time you mentioned that even though it is the Pregnancy Resource Center, that males can go there to get all the additional testing.
Absolutely, it is available and open to men as well. That Pregnancy Help Center is in the middle of an underserved community, and it is there for the community to get those services. And so it's not segregated by sex at all. Absolutely. So some of the emotional follow-ups care that we provide is our support groups. Like I said before, they are free and they're being offered via Zoom right now. Once we are fully back operational and at a capacity that we can receive people in our offices, we will be bringing our groups back face to face. Survivors need that support, but we have definitely been having fun on our invite-only Zooms. And so then support of family member and friends is very helpful. We oftentimes make sure that survivors can identify who their support system is outside of Peace River Center. And it's so important that if you are the person supporting that survivor, that you be present when you say you can be present for them. So do we have any questions? No questions.
One of the things I just wanted to re-emphasize, and I know you mentioned it, was that even if the sexual assault occurred long ago, like say it's something from childhood, that survivors can still receive services, and their friends and family can also receive services to be able to help support them.
Absolutely. So we start at age 12 and it goes all the way to whatever the oldest that we've seen in office has been 87. So it doesn't have to be a fresh sexual assault. It can be childhood sex abuse that someone is just now wanting to seek services for. Absolutely, Jessica. It doesn't matter. And we will provide that services to a husband. We provide it to husband and wives, husbands supporting their wives. And so mothers supporting their daughters, sisters supporting their brothers, you know. And so it is available to anyone who has any type of sexual violence, be it rape, molestation, childhood sex abuse, sexual harassment on your job, all of those things encompass sexual violence. So we're here to offer that support for those survivors. Yeah.
And then
so,
go ahead. A really great question about counseling. So obviously you all do counseling there at Victim Services, but if you're finding that what you're suggesting there isn't, you know, the survivor is just not improving or taking to it, what are your next steps?
So absolutely. I like to say my motto is do no harm. So when we are providing we're just trained to mitigate the crisis and help a survivor through their healing journey. When we find that a survivor is not responding to that, or they're asking and we see that they need more, maybe they're saying, they keep telling us that they're anxious, you know, they're having some anxiety issues, or they're feeling depressed, they can't sleep, and it's like beyond, they've tried everything they can do. We refer them out to our Peace River Center outpatient. We will pay for up to 3 of the survivors' visits at our location, because they do charge for services. And so we'll take on the bulk of those visits for the survivor. But yes, we do refer them out, and we'll cover the cost of that for them up to 3 visits. So yeah, we definitely pay attention to survivors when they are not responding to what we are trained to help them get through. Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'm going to throw up my final poll just because. Should be a nice recap. If you hadn't picked up on it just yet, you might now. What is the color of Sexual Assault Awareness Month, or of sexual assault awareness in general? Okay, perfect.
Yes, still is the color. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and we have been, you know, doing a lot of outreach events around the community. These webinars, this is the second and the last one for the month, but we have been trying to educate the community on our services and just make them aware that while sexual violence is a very underreported crime, it is still a prevalent crime, and it's happening every single day. Survivors may not always come forward, but if somebody does happen to share their story with you and they need help, please give them our information. Tomorrow is Denim Day. And so with Denim Day, we ask that you wear jeans in support and solidarity of survivors of sexual violence. Denim Day stealing from a story out in, I don't know the country at this moment, I'm sorry.
It's
but
Italy.
Italy, an Italian Supreme Court overturned the conviction of a perpetrator, saying that the survivor must have helped him perpetrate the crime against her by taking off her jeans for him. The judge said that her jeans were so tight that she had to have helped the perpetrator take her jeans off. And so we know that no matter what a survivor is wearing, no matter where survivor goes, it is not a survivor's fault that a crime is perpetrated against them. And so women and men and people all over the world rise up and wear jeans on the last Wednesday of every April. And so that's tomorrow, April 28th is Denim Day. So if you have a pair of jeans and you can wear jeans, snap a picture, tag them to our social media page, Peace River Center Victim Services, And we'll I don't know if we're gonna like it or not, Jessica, but go out and like our social media page anyway. But yeah, that's the story of Denim Day. So we have any other questions? Any final thoughts before I go? Well, again, I just want to say thank you for joining us. We have Miss Gloria, who is our Highlands County advocate. I'm sorry to introduce her earlier. And we had Mindy Lee, Mindy Lee is our Hardy County advocate, and Miss Gloria is our Highlands County advocate. Miss Gloria is joining us today. If you'd like to say anything, Miss Gloria.
I just want to say it's a great presentation.
Thank you, Miss Gloria. And so thank you all for joining us. Again, our services are free. They are confidential. There's our office number, the 863-413-2708. You can obtain any of our services by dialing that number. Our sexual violence helpline number is 863-413-2707. And you can obtain any of our services by calling that number. And so without there being any other questions, I appreciate everybody for joining us today. And I look forward to seeing somebody's pictures on social media. Your Denim.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.